Teamwork isn't just nice to have in business, it's the undisputed competitive advantage. When your team members work as a unified force, your whole operation benefits through higher productivity, thriving creativity, and unstoppable momentum. Welcome to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast, where we share with you strategies and tactics to help you develop game-changing teams so that you and your business can make a real difference in the world. So welcome everyone to the year of the fire horse. So I am so excited to be sharing this episode with you today on Chinese New Year, 17th of February, 2026, which is the start of the fire horse year. So I thought today on Impactful Teamwork, I'd just unpack for you a little bit about what this year of the fire horse means to you in your business and give you some strategies and tactics that you can use to really leverage this. Because what's actually happened, and you might have been feeling this shift recently, is that we are just leaving the year of the snake. So we've left this year of the snake, which was all about shedding and getting rid of things that no longer served us. And now we are moving into the year of the fire horse. And so I just want you to pause for a second and just think about this question. Are you leading like a horse, or are you managing like a machine? And this in terms of what's a kind of genuine mirror, because a lot of leaders that I've been working with, we're quite mechanistic, right? We've got a list of things to do and we go. But what's very different in the horse herd and horse energy is this wild intelligence. The horses don't respond to titles or clever words or the story or the ego we tell ourselves about how strong and important we are. What they really respond to is the real, authentic you. And they respond in the moment. They respond to your energy, your intent, and your ability to be clear without being controlling. They actually look into the heart and soul of who we are. And this is because horses have amazing sensory acuity and they can read what's going on with us from a very long distance away. It always makes me laugh, actually, because whenever I used to show up at the yard, when I used to drive and I wasn't living on site where the horses were, they always could hear my car arriving. They knew exactly which one it was, and they always appeared in time. So this is their level of sensory acuity. They're really able to tune in very, very subtly to what is going on. And I think this is really important because horses are masters at reading this level of energy. And whenever clients come to events here, the horses instinctively know the clients that maybe have some degree of anxiety and fear around horses, maybe because of something they've read or heard, or maybe because of a previous experience. So the horses are really masters at reading this, but actually, here's the rub, so your team. As humans, we can actually read the energy of a room. We know what's going on. And if you just think about it, think about the times you've walked into a room and you know that somebody's having a bad day. You instinctively know that. So this is how we are also able to read energy as humans. The problem is often we don't have the language for what's going on around this. So we can't really explain to other people why something's off. We just know it. We can sense the vibe. So in today's podcast, I'm going to share with you what I think the fire horse year is inviting from us as leaders, and what we're leaving behind as we come out of the snake year, and how you can use a very simple 7-day reset that I call the herd to create more trust, more flow, and more momentum in your team. So before we fully dive into the year of the horse and what that means for you, I want to honor what the snake energy has offered us, because this snake energy of the last years had a very particular flavor. As I said, it's about shedding and refining and seeing through illusion. And it's a lot less about loud public action, and it's more about a quiet truth. It's the year, and perhaps many of you can relate to this, when you realize that something you tolerated for a long time and was no longer sustainable. And you released it from your energy. And I can think of a number of things in the last year that I have stopped doing, or people I have released from my inner circle because they weren't serving me in the way that I needed to do it. So snake years bring out this kind of deep internal sorting for us. They really get us to focus on what's real, what's performative, and also importantly, what have we been doing because it's expected? And therefore, what have we been failing to do because we were focusing on what's expected? And what are the things that will be really aligned that we should have been doing? And I know personally, I've spent a lot of time ruminating on this particular topic. What am I doing because it's expected? This is how business owners behave. This is what you do. A business has a funnel and this is how it should work. But is that really what aligns with me? Because the one thing I do know to be true in business is that when we're doing things because we just feel we should do them, we've never got the right energy behind them. And those activities never really land effectively. And so this is when we talk about business being out of alignment. Sometimes this happens when we're doing what we feel we should do rather than something that feels really congruent and aligned. So snake energy often reveals what's been hidden under the surface. And this could be half-held resentments, maybe unspoken expectations, the conversations that we've been avoiding, or the decisions that we've been failing to make. It also could relate to the team dynamics that look fine at a surface level, but actually deep down we can feel the tension in the room. What I also noticed was in the snake year was it was a year of kind of strategy and observation and wisdom. It was a time for reflection for me, a time to pause, a time to watch and to get really honest with myself about what was going on and what I wished was going on instead. So I think what we've really seen in the last year, it's been one of noticing. And the snake energy has probably been great at giving us insight as to what's been going on. But it's really important that now, as we've moved out the year of the snake and we're moving into the year of the fire horse, this is a time about moving forward. It's no longer a time for reflection and analysis paralysis. It's a time for momentum. Because the fire horse year is not subtle. A fire horse year doesn't want us to sit in endless reflection. It wants movement, it wants courage, it wants momentum. But also, it doesn't want chaos. What it wants is clean, aligned action. And that's the sweet spot that we're aiming for today. So, what is the invitation here as we enter the year of the fire horse? So, let's talk a little bit about energy and momentum, because I think this is where my work with the horses gets very real. I spend a lot of time with my horse team because they are the most honest leadership mirrors I've ever encountered. And they show me where I'm congruent and where I'm performing. They show me where I'm clear and where I'm controlling. They show me when I'm grounded and when I'm secretly frustrated or bracing for impact. And horse energy, when it's healthy, it's forward and relational. It's bold, it's clean, it's all about presence and connection. The horses don't negotiate with their own boundaries. The horses don't say one thing and do another. They're absolutely 100% honest and genuine. And if they don't like something, they tell you. And if we add that honesty and genuineness of the horse with the fire energy that adds intensity, speed, and heat, fire energy, as we know it, can create warmth and passion and momentum. But also, fire energy can create destruction and burnout if it's not contained. So, this is the invitation for all of you in the fire year horse is Can you become the kind of leader who creates movement and momentum within the business without creating fear and anxiety within our team? Because actually, this is what your team want. They want clarity, they want decisiveness, they want to feel like there's a direction. But they don't want to pay for that direction with micromanagement or constant emotional volatility. And so I want you to think about, how do you lead your business as a living system, not just as a mechanistic machine? Because we all know our people are dynamic. Our people are part of the ecosystem, they're part of the team. They've all got opinions and ideas. And how do we harness all of those and take on board all the wisdom of the team in order to get success? So let me just illustrate this by sharing with you some examples from the herd. And this is one that happened just actually yesterday. And it was a really cool morning. And I was out by the gate, and my horses were in the field, and they were actually down next to their friends in the field right next to them. And they looked pretty relaxed. In fact, Thistle was lying down. She was nearly asleep. But the thing is with the horses, even when they're resting, they're always fully awake. They're always reading the environment and reading each other because they need to know and be aware of where the danger is coming from. And as I was out in the field watching them, all of a sudden, a tractor started moving in the field further down. And the wind got up, and all of a sudden, the horses lifted their head and looked automatically at what was going on. They were tracking what they thought could potentially be danger. They shifted their weight, and in that moment, all the horses huddled together, all looking in the same direction. And within seconds, and without a single word, the horses had moved into a formation that made them safer. And it's this collective wisdom and collective movement that's so powerful within the horse herds, because they are specialists at keeping everybody safe. And typically they move into this diamond formation that many of you will have heard me talk about, the diamond model of leadership, where they're all paying attention to what is going on so they can all keep themselves safe. But what's great is that they have a look, they become really aware of where the potential danger is, and then they stop and take a moment of discernment. And in that moment, even though the horses were paying attention to the tractor in the next field, they weren't running away. It hadn't triggered in them some massive fear that they needed to get away from it. They were just being very discerning and checking out what was going on. So they were alert and ready to move should that tractor have been a mountain lion. But in the event that it wasn't, they could just be aware that there was something over there and then decide about how to respond. So in business, this is exactly the capability that we need. We need to be able to create this collective safety and this collective momentum within the team. We need to be able to help our teams reorganize, adapt, and respond and move together without this spiraling into some kind of drama. And the question is, how do you build that? This is where I'd like to suggest to you today that I would like to introduce something called the herd. So each letter is an acronym of the model, and it's a simple, memorable reset for you that you can implement over the next 7 days. Because I know what happens if you're just like me. You'll listen to a podcast, you'll find some amazing information, but then life takes over, doesn't it? And we never actually implement anything. So I've built this model for real life, not for perfect fit, so that you can just integrate it into the next 7 days. So 1 letter per day, 7 days, 10 minutes a day. And you can do this alone as the leader, but it's really much more powerful if you do this exercise with your team and share the focus with your team. So what does the herd stand for? On day 1, we're going to look at trust. And we know that trust is the foundation of herd movement. It's the foundation of all our business relationships. It's what enables us to create social capital within the business. And without trust, horses don't follow, they defend. And without trust, teams don't collaborate, they protect. And this is what I've learned from the horses. Trust isn't built through reassurance, it's built through consistency, through congruence, through follow up. It's built by doing what you say you're going to be doing. If you set a boundary, keep it. If you ask for honesty, don't punish people when they give it to you. And I know with the horses, they are so diligent about this. If I ask something of them, then they expect me to follow through with it and do what I say I'm going to do. They give me their trust because they know that each and every day I'm going to come and feed them and give them hay. I'm going to protect them and keep them safe. But if I didn't do that, then why would they rely on me? They'd have no respect. They would run away. So the day one trust practice is very simple, but it's a little bit uncomfortable. So I really want you to think about the question, where have I been predictable and where have I been inconsistent or noisy, unclear, emotionally variable, changing my priorities, moving the goalposts? And I don't want you to beat yourself up as you realize this. You just need to see it because seeing is the beginning of changing things. And then choose one small specific promise that you can keep this week, something your team will actually feel and see and keep to it, because that's how trust begins. Trust begins through our action. And when people know that they can trust us to do what we say we're going to do, that really stabilizes the environment. The H is for heat check your energy. And this is where horse energy can become a leadership superpower because horses read our nervous systems. They don't wait for you to tell them how they feel. They already know. Like I said, their energy is so sensitive. They know when my car was pulling up at the old stables where I used to be. They know how I'm feeling before I even get to the field. And if my internal state is rushed or tight or brittle or performative, they respond accordingly. So I remember a day when we had some clients working with the horses, and the clients were all very high energy and really anxious. And what it did was all the horses became really anxious and high energy. And in the herd observation exercise that we did, all the horses were running around in some kind of crazy state. It was really interesting. So they just fed off the energy and the vibe of the team. And they weren't happy with it because it was really grounded and really dysfunctional, this energy. So at that moment, I actually had to get the clients to stand and engage in some box breathing to really ground themselves and get them in the moment. So what we're doing today on day 2 is about heat checking your energy and removing one thing that drains it. So what I'd like to invite you to do is look at your week and ask, what's draining you right now? What's stealing your energy and giving nothing back? And it could be, for example, a meeting with no purpose. It might be a decision loop that keeps spinning because nobody has decision rights. Or it might be a communication channel that's become a dumping ground. So choose one drain and remove it, or at minimum, reduce it. And then before the next challenging conversation or important conversation you need to have in the business, take 60 seconds to regulate. Get your feet on the ground, get really grounded, put your shoulders back, and do some breathing. Breathe long and slow, and really consciously choose the energy you want to bring to the conversation. Hopefully, it will be calm, clear, direct energy. And when we do this, it means that we can start removing the emotional storm that is over most of us. And we can get to a place of much more calm and centeredness. And from that place of calm and centeredness, we actually give people confidence that we know what's going on. And that makes people feel safer. And we create that psychological safety that people crave. The E is for expose the unsaid. And so, as I said, in the snake year, a lot of people discovered truths that they couldn't unsee. And so what's happening here in the fire horse year is it's going to ask you to speak these truths that you saw. Because the unspoken truth creates drag, it creates silo behavior, it creates passive resistance, and it creates these meetings that look polite, but they feel dreadful, don't they? Because nobody's saying anything. And again, we instinctively know this is going on. So, what I'd invite you to do here on day 3 is really say what needs to be said with courage and care. And ask your team, what are we not saying that needs saying? And then here's the discipline. When we ask this question to people, what are we not saying that needs to be said? Then zippity zip up, be silent, and just say nothing. And leave people the opportunity to really think. And sometimes you'll even literally see the cogs in their head spinning round as they try and figure out what it is. But we need to give people the opportunity to really think and let them decide honestly what they're willing to reveal. And this can be super, super powerful because it really encourages the elephant in the room to be spoken about, all the things that we haven't said. And the important thing is, whatever is said, don't defend it, don't explain it, don't justify it. Just listen and reflect back to people what they've said so that they know you have heard it, and then name the next step. So the goal here is to clear the air so that movement becomes possible again and we don't get locked in friction. Day 4, we're going to look at H, which is hold the boundary. Now, horses have fences and they respect them most of the time. Sometimes Bracken doesn't respect my electric fence, but as a whole, horses do respect the fences. And they don't respect the fences because they're restrictive. They respect the fences because they create this safety and calm and clarity. And our teams need these psychologically safety fences as well. So what we're going to focus on today on day 4, it's about holding one boundary that protects the energy and focus of the team. So it could be a boundary around priorities, what's in and what's out this week. It might be a boundary around behavior, like how feedback's given, how conflict's handled, what gets tolerated and what doesn't. Or it might be a boundary around time, like no meetings before 10 a.m. on Mondays. So pick one boundary, communicate it cleanly, and keep it. Because we want people to develop trust that we're going to do what we say we're going to do. So don't set a boundary that you're not willing to hold. That will be your challenge for day 4. Day 5 is all about execute the decision. That's the E. And this is the fire horse day. And this is when we get into real momentum. Because horses don't debate for years on end. They sense, they decide, and they move in the moment. If a horse saw something, they decided it was danger and then spent ages deciding whether that, was danger and what action to take, then they would get in mortal danger. But what's really interesting in organizations is that teams get stuck. They get stuck when decisions are unclear, when ownership is fuzzy, and when people are afraid of being blamed, or when leaders hold on to all of the decisions just in case. So day 5 is all about decision velocity. Choose one stuck decision, make a decision about it within the next 24 hours. It doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be clear, and then communicate 4 things to your team. What we decided, why we decided it, who owns the next step, and when we'll review it. And this one simple thing can remove the pattern of organizational drag that exists in the business. And organizational drag happens when the team can't keep up with the speed that the leadership are moving at. And usually the organizational drag comes because we don't have the right systems and processes and resources in place for the team to be able to move at the speed that the leaders want to. On day 6, we look at R, which is about release the contribution. And I think this is one of my favorite days because it changes the feel of a team so quickly. Now, in a herd of horses, every horse has a role. Importantly, not a job title. Some of the horses are watchers. They're on the outside. There are sentinels. Some are bold, some regulate, some initiate movement. But the herd functions effectively because the strengths are used well and not because everyone has the same strength. And what I often witness in teams is that we often waste potential because people are stuck in work that doesn't match their strengths, and or because the leader is holding the reins too tight. So today on day 6, I want to talk about releasing contribution. I'd like you to find one person in your team whose strengths you are underusing and give them strength-led ownership for the week. So it might be something like this. Jane, this is what you're brilliant, and I want you to lead this piece. Here's what it looks like. Here's what you can decide without me. Here's where I'll back you up. And then create that empowered action to help Jane realize her contribution to the team without creating chaos and confusion. Day 7 is all about debrief the rhythm. Because the whole herd doesn't just move, it resets, it recalibrates, and it returns to rhythm. So if you want sustainable momentum in your business, you need a rhythm, not constant pushing. And this is what I see a lot in businesses. Business is constantly pushing without having this rhythm. Nature has an ebb and flow to it, right? It doesn't keep going at 24,000 miles an hour, day in, day out. That's just not feasible. You can't do that. The horses can't do that. Your business can't do that. So today I want to ask yourself or the team, what creative flow this week? What created friction? And what do we keep, stop, and try next week? Write it, decide one thing you'll embed for the next 30 days and share that with the team. And because this is how you build a living ecosystem. You don't just do a reset and forget it. You design a rhythm that keeps you moving. So as we step out of the year of the snake into the year of the fire horse, I want to leave you with this. The snake helped you see, the horse helps you move. And if you want to move without burning out, if you want your team to move together instead of pulling apart, then I really recommend you do the 7-day The Herd. 1 letter per day, 10 minutes a day, consistent, simple, and visible. And if you want a 1-page PDF guide, send me a message with The Herd and I'll get it over to you. Drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm Julia Felton on LinkedIn, or send me an email at julia@businesshorsepower.com. And we will send you over this 1 page so you can put the herd principles into practice in your business this week. Because I'd really love to hear from you. Genuinely, I do. And I'd really love to figure out what part of the reset you think your team needs right now. Is it trust, energy, truth, boundaries, decision, contribution, or rhythm? Because the horses are always giving us our feedback. Your team and your business is always giving you feedback. You just have to listen. So I am super excited that this is the year of the horse. I can't wait to see the impact and the alignment that it has on me, on my business. It's been a long time coming, the year of the horse. Fire horse, if I remember correctly, I might have this wrong. I think it's 66 years since we last had a fire horse year. So I'm really excited to see what happens. I hope you found this insightful, and please do tune in next week, because next week is our 100th episode. I really can't believe it. I'm so excited about that. So I'll have a special episode for you next week. So until next week, have an amazing week and enjoy the new fire horse year. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast. Please stay tuned for future episodes and do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favorite platform. Recommendations are essential for attracting new listeners. Please follow us on social media at Julia Felton and at Business Horsepower. And if there are any topics you'd like us to cover on future episodes, please do let me know. Remember,
You and your team are always making an impact. What impact will you make today?